Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Fair Education Impact Festival. My name is Gina Cicerone, and it is a pleasure to be here alongside the entire Secretariat of the Fair Education Alliance and my co-CEO, Sam Butters, who you'll be hearing from shortly. We are absolutely thrilled to see you, and there's been such great conversations happening in the chat already about what you're looking forward to at the Fair Education Impact Festival over the 2 weeks. So continue to share that, your name, your organization, and what you're hoping to get out of the Impact Festival, and we look forward to hearing from you. So we have an amazing 2 weeks lined up, and I think we have about 90 on the call so far, and I can see the waiting room. There are a few coming in every second. So we'll have a great turnout, and we actually have 536 registrants for the Impact Festival. Phenomenal. And these are from our FEA members, our 230 member organizations, and also from early stage innovators who have an idea to also make education fair. So the Impact Festival comes at such a pivotal point. You were likely with us in November at our summit. When we were in lockdown, we were thinking about how to turn the crisis into an opportunity. And as we emerge from lockdown, it's really important that we're taking these learnings and that we're collaborating and connecting more than ever. So whether you're an FEA member, whether you're an early stage innovator, we have you here to build those connections, to build those skills, and to develop your knowledge and understanding of the different initiatives and approaches for making education fair. And that is why we're here today. So our vision, and if Emma, you wouldn't mind on the next slide, is that we have an education system where no child's success is limited by their socioeconomic background. And that has come even more apparent over the past year and a month. So as I mentioned, we have 230 members in the FEA, such an incredible diversity across the third sector, from business, from education, and also the think tanks and policymakers as well. And we're so proud to have the support of our business members and our trusts and foundations who enable this amazing collective action work to happen. So as we think about the Alliance and this 230 members, plus 100 innovators who are here with us over the course of the next 2 weeks, we know that we have such strength in the Alliance. Critically, we have determined over 10 years ago, almost 10 years ago, our Fair Education Impact Goals. And these are still through to today. We want to see a fair education system that's narrowing the gap from early years through to career. And the members have collectively decided the 4 different areas that they want to see in inclusive education, ranging from one that develops the whole child, not just attainment, but building on that with well-being and skills. That's prioritizing support for teachers and leaders to help them thrive, specifically in the most disadvantaged areas. That's engaging parents and communities of all backgrounds. And that's joining up support for all post-16 opportunities. At the Secretariat, we have 4 outcomes to help this happen, and you'll see all of these happening across the next 2 weeks, from connecting across the ecosystem, having that unified message for vision and action, to look at the diverse leadership. So excited to see some new faces and some of our familiar friends that it will be sharing, and also to scale systemically. What are those new models and approaches that can help us get to every young person that can benefit from the different initiatives and the collaboration? So what we have in store over the next 2 weeks, you'll see this in the chat in just one moment, is a jam-packed timetable with so many diverse sessions and led by over 50 of our members and friends of the FEA. So you can see this here, but if you just go to the bit.ly link, of course, you will have this, and hopefully you'll have saved some of the sessions in your diary when you'll be joining us across the 2 weeks. So thank you so much to all the session leads, but really thank you for attending. Sam will talk about this in just a moment, but this is a very participative impact festival, and so we can't wait to have you involved and learn from all of you across the 2 weeks. And also across the 2 weeks, we have 2 awards that are open. So just to give you a bit of a flavor, we have our Entrepreneurship Award, which is open to FEA members. So if you haven't spoken to Tisha, lovely pick in the top right there, do get in touch with Tisha on the chat if you're interested. She's also running some sessions with the 5 current award winners on the 27th and 29th of April. So do join those to learn what it's like to develop an internal innovation and get the funding for a staff member to lead that. And then we have our Innovation Award. So hello to all of our friends that are early stage innovators on this call. The Innovation Award is open to the public, and you'll also get a chance this afternoon to hear from Cheyenne. So Cheyenne is also, you'll hear from him in a musical way at the end of the session today, but this afternoon he'll be leading a session on the Innovation Award. And then you can hear from our 5 award winners from the Innovation Award on the 28th and 29th. So that's a flavor of what is in store. But this morning, what we have is we also have 2 guests, and we are not going to go in right now, but just to give you a flavor, we have Priya Gill, who is the Deputy Youth Mayor of Derby, who's joining us, also an alumni of First Story, who'll be gracing us with her poetry. And then later on, we have our chair, Dr. Vanessa Ogden, who will be sharing her insights and reflections. So just so you know, this is designed by you for you. Thank you for all of your input to the steering group, to the subcommittee who joined Bryony in the planning, and sharing everything to really make this work for you at a time that's so pivotal. So Sam, I'll hand over to you to share more.
Thank you so much, Gina, and good morning, everybody, and welcome. I'm so excited for the next 2 weeks, and I'm going to, over the next couple of minutes, do 2 things. Give you a little bit of a flavour of some of the fantastic sessions that we have over the next 2 weeks in store, over 40 sessions. And hopefully you've seen the timetable that's been sent in your pre-information, and it's also in the chat if you want to have a look. And second, give you some top tips on how to get the most out of the next 2 weeks in terms of networking and connecting with your peers. So first of all, the timetable's in the chat there. I'm going to highlight some of the key topics that we're particularly excited about of the 40 sessions, but feel free to delve in, treat it a bit like Glastonbury, find out what's the right sessions for you and your experience as an individual and as an organisation over the next 2 weeks. So some highlights, later today we have a fantastic session on the impact of lockdown and both the challenges and opportunities for educational inequality, with a real focus on what are those opportunities we can seize to make education fairer, coming off the back of what's been a difficult year for many, but many opportunities there as well. And we've got Natalie Pereira speaking at that. Then tomorrow we have another key session with around 20 different FEA member organisations talking about our shared agenda. So those collective priorities that we've all agreed together: engaging parents and communities in education, supporting teachers and leaders, an education system that develops the whole child and wellbeing and skills, and joining up support for post-16 destinations. We're going to have a whole range of members talking about how you all individually contribute to those collective priorities and our shared agenda. Later this week, we've got a session that I'm particularly looking forward to on racial justice and driving that, particularly as part of the fabric of inequality, led by Jarell, one of our members. And then next week, we're excited that we've got a session specifically on embedding youth voice in your organisation. As you'll know, this has been a key focus for the Fair Education Alliance for a long time now, and we have recently taken on the mantle of the big shoes to fill of the I Will campaign, and excitingly have our youth engagement manager starting today, Becca. So please do take the time over the next 2 weeks to introduce yourself to Becca on the chat as well, if youth engagement is something well, we hope that you're interested in. We also have member spotlight sessions across the 2 weeks on a couple of interesting topics: gendered impact of lockdown, led by Be Her Lead, and also measuring impact during the pandemic with Impact Ed and Kalisa. And then, as Gina mentioned, another reason for the Impact Festival is for early stage innovators. So many of you will be member organisations, but many of you might be innovators or entrepreneurs or teachers or young people with great ideas to tackle education and equality. And we have lots of sessions specifically for you to develop your ideas, to learn about our two awards, the Innovation Award and the Entrepreneurship Award, and also learn those kind of key foundational skills that you need for starting to grow your idea. So a session on theory of change, business foundations, and understanding how to turn initiatives from school-based to national social enterprises through our awards. And then finally, as you all know, one of our key values is fun. And so we'll be infusing that through all of our sessions, but then we specifically have a few sessions for you to move and connect in a slightly more creative way through yoga, meditation, and even pop dance. So have a go at that over the next 2 weeks. So we're going to get straight into some virtual networking in a few minutes time, which, as you know from FEA events, is the name of the game, connecting with each other. But before we do that, we just wanted to give some top tips for how to get the most out of the sessions in the next fortnight. So the big thing to say is the people to learn from over the next 2 weeks is partly the session leads who are so kindly hosting the sessions and navigating and facilitating your journey through the sessions, but also each other and yourself. You, each and every one of you, have something to contribute about your experiences, insights, evidence that you bring from your organizations. And so we want to hear from everybody. In an in-person event, obviously, one of the great things is meeting people, swapping business cards. Will we ever do that again? But also you can do that virtually. So 3 top tips. Check out your attendee list, which came out in the pre-information. You'll have this in your inbox. It came from Lauren yesterday. And you have all the email addresses for all the attendees who've consented. So please feel free to connect and collaborate using that. And you can find out if anyone else is in your sessions by looking on the chat function. Secondly, make use of the Zoom chat. So share your emails in the Zoom, share resources, share ideas and insights, and make use of private message as well. And then last but not least, we also encourage you to use social media. So with all our events, we want to go bigger than the 500 people that are part of this festival. Use social media. The hashtags are on my screen here, maybe on that side. Hashtag Impact Festival, and Twitter is @_the FEA, and we're also on LinkedIn as well. So that is our top tips for the festival. And I think #1 message is enjoy it. And we hope you're feeling really excited and ready to get the most out of the next 2 weeks. So back to you, Gina, to introduce our first speaker.
Thank you, Sam. So, there we go. So it is my absolute pleasure to introduce Priya Gill. As I mentioned, Priya is an alumni of First Story, one of the FEA members back since 2014. And she has also become the Deputy Youth Mayor for Derby. So we are so excited that Priya is joining us today to share a bit around her background and experience, and really share some of the poetry that she's been doing just over the past 2 years since she first started with First Story. And you can see the amazing impact that that has had on her. So Priya, thank you so much for joining us this morning. I will just spotlight you now and welcome you to the summit. Thank you so much. Over to you.
Yes, hi everyone. My name's Priya, like Gina mentioned. I've been writing poetry for just over 2 years now, and it's really important. I feel like something I have to say to everyone that I meet when I'm talking about poetry is that I used to hate English. That's really important because as I started to sort of enjoy it, it was year 12 when I started to enjoy it, and that's when I came across First Story. And people say to me, tell me about you, and tell me about your poetry, and then tell me about First Story. And I can't do it separately because that's the impact that First Story has had on me and the peers around me as well. Like, I've got my anthology here. This is a book that I was published in. That's amazing to say that I have been published in a book, having only been writing poetry for 2 years. That's the kind of support we have. And also, as Gina mentioned as well, I am the Deputy Youth Mayor of Derby, and that was something that First Story was heavily involved in as well. So I'd been on the Youth Council for about 4 years or so before I came across First Story, and every year I came shy of the confidence that I needed to apply, but then with the support from First Story, I realized that every voice matters, and most of the time you're saying something that everyone else feels anyway. So, and then I applied to be youth mayor, and now I'm the deputy youth mayor, which is amazing. We're doing amazing things in the city. So on that note, I'm going to read you 3 pieces of varying lengths that I've written on my First Story journey. The first one's from the anthology. The second one, actually I forgot to mention this, through First Story, I've been given the opportunity to be mentored for a year by a published writer, which is amazing. So I'm partway through that, and the variety of tasks that I've done in that is incredible. I mean, you'll see now the piece that I read is, you have to bear with it, it's a little bit different, but I think you'll enjoy it. And then the last one is something that I wanted to leave you with, because it's a snippet from the Young Writers Festival that I did. It's just a little snippet that I think sums up why we're all here. So the first piece is called Reflected on You. Inside, he was drowning, and I could tell. He'd had the same shirt on all week and the same lost look in his eyes. He never held his head high anymore and never went to any of the matches, even the big ones. I had to ask myself who was grasping him so hard. Why had society made him feel like this? And why did he never talk about it? Mind you, no one ever talks about the important stuff really, do they? Stoic, that's what they called it. Screwing the paper and unfolding and screwing and unfolding, but pretending it's just a new style, like nothing's wrong, I promise. It was just as this thought entered my head that I realized I was looking in the mirror. That's the first piece. The second one is a genre called Martianism, where you have to write from an alien's point of view, which was really fun. And I thought I'll share this one with you. This was on my mentorship. So the mind of a Martian. Today I experienced something utterly mind-boggling, perplexing, awe-inspiring. A gig on planet Earth is not just a carriage to be pulled by a horse, nor a boat to be rowed, but a celebration of culture to be attended by humans. From start to end, the gig holds a surprise around every corner. For one, the banners everywhere read Wireless 2019. Wireless. As far as the eyes could see, there were wires and cables powering all kinds of light and sound-inducing machines. There also seemed to be people, slightly stressed, beckoning the public to buy their ultra-small, seemingly exorbitant foodstuffs. Why you wouldn't just eat before the event still has me in a state of great confusion. There are some drinks you have to be over a certain age to buy. It's either 18 or 25. The information is presented in the most inconvenient ways. First, a voice through a sound amplifying device, then a poster giving you completely different information. I don't get it. The people performing made me feel a great wave of hilarity. There seemed to be a congregation of humans towards the back of the stage hitting various machines in such a way that it sounded very harmonious. You'd be surprised. It looked rather hard. These were the humans that stayed on for the whole time. Another human who went off after a while seemed to be given more importance and was foregrounded, and everyone was reaching out to them, like some sort of novel cult or something. This brings me onto the part of the gig that really astounded me. The behavior of the humans was atrocious, to be honest, and it seemed to get more out of control the further you got to the important human. Scream, laughter, tears, dancing, screech. Everyone was saying the same words as the main person on stage, but there was only one important person. Chosen one, I suppose. What if you were to mess up the words? It's not like they really wrote every single word that they were saying. Surely not. I just think that if you already know everything that everyone is going to say, then it's a waste of valuable coins and paper stuffs, along with time. Nonetheless, the feeling of euphoria was second to none. And I do not think, fellow Martians, that we'll ever experience that again. Wow. And I think what I'm about to say is the most important thing. It's about first story and the impact on not me, but my peers as well. And throughout the school, like, people come up to me and say, oh yeah, first story, you know, I wrote this and that, because my festival piece was about using songs, which a lot of young people can relate to. So they write about subjects that appear in songs, but sort of less aggressively. So they write about knife crime, or maybe they've got problems at home. Anyway, you might be sitting there and thinking, I don't believe you. Well, I'll show it's me too. See, through first story, my competence excelled. I speak at this conference as well. I gain the confidence to tell the story of how these people have always wanted us to shell it. They'll make you feel like anything is possible, anything is probable, and whilst many think it's stoppable, when you unleash your voice and see your choice come to fruition, it becomes ammunition. You'll advance on every mission, chance on every vision, and before you know it, you're loving your words because they're so full and they're worth me. The amount of metaphors you could pull in a verse. There we go. Thank you.
Priya, thank you so much. I'm sure for those on Zoom, you can see the functions and you can see on the right hand side, you've got loads of applause, but I think Priya will come off and just give you an applause. That was absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. I loved the parts, I mean, the second one about inclusion, and just seeing it from a different perspective, and the creativity you had with the Martianism. I've never heard of that before, Martianism. So love it. And just really powerful that you're leaving us with. Specifically, anything is possible in that last one, and to really see you go from somebody self-admitting not loving English, not even liking English. I think you used the word hate, right?
Yes, hate. And hate is a very strong word.
Yeah, to now you're doing your A-level, one of which is in English.
Yeah, exactly.
Just phenomenal. Thank you so much for sharing. Are you hanging around for the speed networking now?
Absolutely.
Amazing. So Priya will be coming into your groups. So for all of you that are looking forward to hearing more from Priya, you might get the chance just now. So thank you so much, Priya. And I'll just introduce the next segment then, which is to get you into groups and speed networking. So what we're going to be doing in just a moment is dividing you up into some small groups. And we're going to do some 3 rounds of speed networking. When I say speed networking, I mean 4 minutes per round. So it really is rapid fire. And for each round, we have a theme. So the first question I would like you to consider is to think about something that has brought you joy. Hopefully many of you will be thinking about Priya's amazing poetry just then, and that will be one thing. But what else has brought you joy over the past few days? So I'm only breaking us out into groups of about 3 or 4 people. And if you can just introduce yourself, your name and your organization. If you want to exchange contact details, feel free to do that. But of course, you have the attendee list. And then if you share one thing that has brought you joy over the past few days, and you take turns, it will likely just be about a minute per person, boom, 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 boom. And then we will be summoning you back into the plenary, and then we'll be breaking out into groups following that. So a nice chance to get to know each other. Back, everyone. Hope that you had a fantastic time getting to see so many of your other FEA members and of the early stage innovators. We had some great conversations about past involvement, but really just pumped for the next 2 weeks. So thank you so much. What we will do now, it's my absolute pleasure to introduce somebody who is hopefully a familiar face to you all. It's our fantastic chair, Dr. Vanessa Ogden. Vanessa was with us at the summit. And as I mentioned in the introduction today, this this Impact Festival has been designed by you and for you. And one of the biggest pieces of feedback we had was, I think, in quotes, "More Vanessa, please." So we're so delighted that she is here with us to share her reflections and her insights from the front line as the CEO of Mulberry Schools Trust, but also as the chair of the Fair Education Alliance. So Vanessa, thank you so much for joining us. I'll just go ahead and spotlight you now so you'll come onto full screen for everybody.
Oh dear.
No problem. And thank you so much. Over to you, Vanessa.
Thanks, Gina. Thanks for your words as well. It means a great deal, and I'm sure that everyone who's here has a huge amount of more valuable things to say. But I wanted to welcome you to this event taking place between the 20th and 29th of April. It's a very, very important event for us, because it's a place where we can really start to share ideas and practice between us, and to really think collectively about what we want for our society in the future as we emerge post-pandemic, but as we really start to rebuild things. And that's going to happen quite quickly. I mean, I think the sense of rebuilding since the 12th of April has kind of, gone into quite high speed, I think, certainly where I'm seeing things. And I think we will become used to the change back quite quickly. But it's a question of what is change back, really? What is it that we really want? We've had time to reflect on what's valuable to us as people, as individuals, and perhaps as a local community. But really, in terms of the sort of the national conversation on this, what is it that we would really want if we were going to imagine the kind of future that we want for our children, whether they're our own children or all children? And in a way, as a teacher, as a head teacher, all children are my children, really. The children I have here, in this case, Mulberry School for Girls, are my daughters. I'm very fond of saying, and we have their back right the way through post school. It's important for particularly children existing in areas of disadvantage to know that there's that the school has your back, that an organisation that is secure and is always there for you has your back. And that sense of security for people generally, for all of us, is incredibly important, and is very missing at times of national crisis like this. So schools become the centres of community in their place. And that's because, your own place, your own community is incredibly special. It's unique. And if I just reflect on sort of East London, it's here, it's just out of the window there, it's sunny today. It has different characters depending on the weather, but also depending on where you're walking locally, and today it's sunny and alive and bright and zingy. And there have been times when I've walked down the road, Whitechapel Road, and it's been dusk, and the East London Mosque is giving its call to prayer, and that's ringing around the local streets, and the sun is setting, and it has an air of spirituality about it. And then you can be out very early in the morning walking to another school in another part of Shoreditch, not far away, and it can be a bit drug filled, sort of end of the night kind of territory, sort of the nightlife just sort of wandering away, and that kind of sense of sort of vacuum that sort of exists before then people start to kind of reawaken at around about 11 in the morning, and that space of time which feels very empty kind of sort of sits in the streets. It's unique, it's special, and some places have their real edge. And of course that plays up and down the country. We're in a society where there is a patchwork of communities, and often cheek by jowl, wealth and poverty together. And so, one thinks about where one is practicing as an organisation, and where one is practicing as an organisation that supports the school system, is involved with the school system. One has to think about the particular uniqueness of the setting, the particular uniqueness of the people, the particular uniqueness of the needs that they have, and then how uniquely, drawing upon all of our specialist knowledge, we are going to respond to those needs. So the first reflection I have really is that coming out of the pandemic, you know, place is very connected to education, regions are very unique and special, and this plays up and down the land. And it's very important for us, I think, as a nation to go forward celebrating that uniqueness, being proud of that national identity and that proud of that diverse national identity and the contribution we all have to make to that as individuals from whatever culture, heritage or background we're from, and how as a society the different parts of our services, our multi-agency approach to this supports those needs differently, diversely and collectively. So I think that's something for me that's incredibly important. Coming back from the crisis now and thinking now in this moment of spring, where next, you know, where do we put our resources, our energy and our drive next? I think the second thing for me really, and thinking about sort of, you know, the things that are coming up nationally in education, the digital divide is very much on people's lips. You know, I've just been in another meeting that I was asked to speak of corporates, you know, asking the same question, you know, what are the needs? And I think digital infrastructure, not just in devices, although, you know, without devices you can't access, you know, the learning and resources that are out there, but also the digital infrastructure in the way in which we create the space for people. You know, if we were to go into further lockdown, we know that that's necessary, the digital space for people to be able to come together in this way, or to be schooled, or to be supported with a service. But I think the benefits of that are considerable, aren't they? Especially if you have to travel long distances to get to any of those services. You know, we are now in a space where we don't have to travel to meetings in the same way or for services in quite the same way as we did before, and we can mix and match, we can blend our infrastructure to work more agilely for us. And whilst it's important to be together physically, and, you know, schools are a great example of that. You know, March the 9th here, you know, staff were pretty jubilant to be back in the building with live students rather than just teaching through a screen the whole time. You know, the physical closeness is important, but equally we can use a digital infrastructure very effectively to provide better support, I think, for people. So how as a society we learn to use these tools in a way that is beneficial and equally available to people is the second reflection I have. And then the third is exactly what I've said, really, how we construct the system-wide support for education, the multi-agency support that the Fair Education Alliance brings together around schools like mine. You know, it's been so important to us having multi-agency support. And during the pandemic, that multi-agency support has enabled us to run a food bank, for example, for 520 families locally, something that you wouldn't think you would really have to do in an advanced industrial society, but which became absolutely essential for people. You know, universal credit just wasn't enough. People lost their jobs in the gig economy, and then there are people who aren't entitled to universal credit at all because they're recent arrivals, not, in various ways, not asylum, don't have any resources whatsoever. So, you know, it's the food bank was incredibly important. And yesterday I was introduced to our new school social worker. You know, we you know, just some examples of the multi-agency work that helps us to, you know, ensure that our students will thrive. So I think all of these things, these three key reflections are about essentially the vision of a society and a school system that wraps its arms around schools, you know, a system that wraps its arms around schools, services that come in and help to hold and work alongside schools to help to hold this great potential for community flourishing. And I'm just going to finish really with an example. Really, we were 50. Mulberry School for Girls was 50 not so long ago. I think it was 2015, and we commissioned a 50th anniversary tapestry. The picture was designed by students, and then it was in fact, actually, that's the picture that was designed, and it abstracted from it. The head of art abstracted from that picture 3 designs that could be feasibly made into a less complex but richly coloured tapestry. And the purpose of the community tapestry was this, really. It was about every single person who is connected with the school community, either students, parents, teachers, governors, the local hospitals. Of the tapestry travelled to local primary schools, the local hospital, to the Ideas store, which is the equivalent of libraries around here, to various community places, and everybody contributed their part. And that's really what I mean, is that, you know, the product of a great education is the work of many invisible hands, and many hands in the services that you all represent, and many hands in the schools, but they're all really in the end invisible. But what you get is this richly colourful, creative, imaginative, passionate individual in the children that are the product of that. And so really that's what the Fair Education Alliance is. It's that human tapestry, isn't it?
Thank you so much, Vanessa. I think those are absolutely beautiful words to send us off into the next 2 weeks of being those invisible hands that are going to support those young people be everything they deserve to be in life. So thank you. And without further ado, we're going to be closing this session with some music from Cheyenne, who is the head of our Innovation Award. And so Cheyenne is looking over the next 2 weeks to meet all you wonderful innovators and entrepreneurs with great ideas to tackle educational inequality, but is also a musician. And so I'll be sharing that with you today. So as we leave, Emma's just going to pull up some polls as well on your feedback on this session. So it'd be grateful if, as you're listening to Cheyenne's wonderful music and dropping off the call, if you could just take a moment to complete the poll as well. And then we're wishing you the most fruitful 2 weeks of learning, connection, and as Vanessa so beautifully put it, becoming those invisible hands and community. So thank you to Priya, thank you to Vanessa, and thank you to all of you, and over to Cheyenne.
Thank you so much, Sam. Yeah, I know we're at time, so if people have to leave, I understand. I won't feel bad, but if you can, it'd be lovely to have you and hum along in your heads. So I'm Cheyenne. I had the Innovation Award at the FEA, but that's my day job. In the evenings, I sometimes entertain the team with some sounds. So I'm just going to do that for you today. And I'll keep the intro brief, but the song is about change and about the fragility of life, and that's why I picked it. I think that's kind of the mood all of us have been in. And I hope you forgive any part of this that kind of gets lost in transmission or absorbed by the cyberspace between us.
I used to rule the world, seas would rise when I gave the word. Now in the morning I sleep alone, sweep the streets I used to own. I used to roll the dice, feel the fear in my enemy's eyes, listen as the crowd would sing. But now the old king is dead, along with the king. One minute I held the key, next the walls were closed on me, and I discovered that my castle stand upon pillars of salt and pillars of sand. I hear Jerusalem bells are ringing, Roman cavalry choirs are singing. Be my mirror, my sword and shield, my missionaries in a foreign field. For some reason I